Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be joined by Anthony today, Anthony Aramini. He'll be joining me to talk about his incredible experiences through all kinds of hardships, starting from the beginning as a coach, teaching people how to get more in touch with the masculine side, being more assertive and all that kind of stuff, and then transitioning to actually helping other coaches, becoming a coach of coaches and helping them leverage tools and teams in order to, from the minimum of 2x to 5x their sales without working to the bone. So I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, Anthony. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I was looking forward to this. And to anyone who's listening, it's also nice to meet you guys.
Awesome. So really excited for this conversation. I gave a very short one-liner on you, but I'd love you to tell your story more on exactly how it all began back in 2013 when you really first got properly started with coaching.
Totally. So prior to 2013, which was the year that I got certified as a coach through the Coach Training Alliance, so that's ICF certified, I had lost 110 pounds in 9 months and slipped into bulimia nervosa. One day, I was told by a psychiatrist that I need to take antidepressants because I have OCD and ADHD, and knowing what antidepressants will do to your biology, your sympathetic nervous system, etc., I sought for a different way. And so that led me down a path into personal development, coming in touch with CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting, which helped me move through shifting my perspective of myself as a man. Whereas as I was losing weight, I mainly paid attention to how I looked. Whereas when I got into CrossFit, it was interesting. Like there was no mirrors anywhere. And it was the person finishing last, everyone would celebrate for. And so I grew really fascinated with that. It shifted my awareness and perspective to how do I feel? How am I performing? How am I functioning as a human? And along the way, that journey led me to gain more self-esteem, gain more confidence, which led me to uncover coaching while I was in my first year of college. And I was going through that coach certification program. The requirement, though, was to graduate, you not only have to take a coaching test, but you need to get 7 paying clients. And so some of the students in the program, they were just charging $1 for their sessions or $50 or $100. However, I was a nerd at the time, being a business major, but although studying the textbook on marketing, I would leave school. And because I was into personal development, I was studying books on copywriting, like The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy or No BS Marketing, etc. And so I started looking at, all right, this could be an opportunity for me to earn a decent living. So I took it as a challenge. And rather than getting clients that paid a little bit of money, I sold my first 2 clients as $897 packages of coaching sessions. The next 2 people I enrolled were a little bit over $1,000. And then I just increased my price to $1997 for the same exact package. And so what I was coaching people at the time on was more around wellness and becoming more masculine, right? Healing those wounds that was keeping them from fully expressing themselves, whether for some it was in a relationship, for others it was getting a raise at work or figuring out what they wanted to do. But something interesting happened along the way. The coach who was leading our cohort saw what I was doing and heard how much money that I had generated. And she reached out to me in private and she asked, "What are you doing?" I've been a coach for just about 8 years now, and I've never had a student who came through the program and not only learned how to coach, but generated as much money you did. And so we started having a conversation about it, and I just gave her some free advice. And she took it, she used it, and she came back and she was like, "Holy cow, I just did over $10,000 within the last 2 weeks." And she's like, "What else do you know, or can you help me with? Because I'd be interested in working with you a bit more closer." And so she became my first $5,000 client because I realized, and it clicked for me, like, all right, that was really simple for me. And I was able to help her if I can help her more deeply and make more money so that she can help more people. Like, that's exciting. However, I could also be paid really well for that. It was in that moment I realized I don't need to go back to college. There's no reason for me to study about marketing when I'm now doing it. I'm in Facebook groups and adding value and connecting with people and just being a value add. Started connecting with people and getting more more clients. My mom, on the other hand, thought I was absolutely insane. She was like, you got to stay in college. You got to get your degree. You got to get a job. Everything you're doing doesn't make any sense. And so, long story short, she was pissed. But I was certain as to what I was doing. I didn't know exactly where I was taking this. She was super pissed that I wasn't returning to college, but I was certain. And from now, it was around 2014 through 2016, I went through a bit of a personal transition myself. I was now new to making money, growing up, come from a poor background. Like, my biological father left when I was 3.5 years old, took the last $14,000 cash we had left to our name, which put my family in a really tough position. And so from a young age, like selling flowers on the streets of Queens, New York City, and going from house to house while my mom was figuring out, and we were too, like what we were going to do. My coaching journey led me to find some people on the internet who were talking about getting rich, not get rich quick, but like the importance of getting rich and making more money. And so I literally allowed that to consume me, which ultimately led to pushing my coaching business to the side. I took on a job as a full-time real estate agent, rose through the ranks fairly quickly to make at least like 6 figures a year. But deep down, I felt really disconnected. Like I wasn't doing what I was told to do. So I go full force into the coaching business, but at the same time, being the stubborn person I wasn't working with any coaches at the time. I wasn't investing into mentorship. I was trying to figure everything out on my own. And so my idea was, well, I'll build an online course, because that's what I was seeing in ads that you can do at the time. And therefore I can earn 10K per month in passive income, supposedly.
Sorry, I just need to interrupt because there's so much to unpack already. So many things, exciting like elements of the story that have already occurred. So rewinding a little bit, if I can ask you a few questions.
Of course.
The first step you took was, I guess, doing the ICF accreditation. Would you say that, first of all, that step is necessary? Would you like, how did you make that decision, and how has it helped you on that journey?
It's a good question. It depends. Nobody decides to become a coach for an insignificant reason. Same is true for consulting. When you're a coach, true coaching is the ability to ask powerful questions, relying on allowing the other person to rely on their own inner wisdom and what they know to set goals and achieve goals. Now, that is a skill set, right? It requires empathy skills, listening skills, types of questions to ask, the ability to remove your own agenda, right, and hold space for the other person. And there's no advice that is given. Consulting, on the other hand, is slightly different because you're diagnosing the person's situation. So yes, you're asking some questions, but ultimately you're giving advice and working with that person to come up with a strategy. Nowadays, though, I've realized with the work that I've been doing with clients now over the course of now close to a decade, everyone's got a transformational result that they have created within their life. Some within their business, but generally speaking, a transformational result. That means if you were able to accomplish that, then other people are still at the starting point. And because you were able to climb that mountain, what you have is depth. You have optics. If that person is climbing up the mountain, you know what that person could anticipate, the mistakes that they might make along the way that you might have made and can help them avoid. And therefore, of course, because you know that and can help them, you can charge really handsomely for that. Now, going back to your question, is it necessary to get certified as a coach? Well, if you don't know how to ask powerful questions, if you don't have good empathy skills to hold space for your clients and remove your own agenda, it would be beneficial. But do you need a coach certification to build a multi 6, 7, 8-figure business? No, you don't.
Powerful. Super interesting. And you also mentioned transformation. And talking about transformation, I mean, incredible again, like such an unfortunate beginning when it was so young, obviously not having a biological father, and then also dealing with the bulimia and depression. What were the things that you took away? What were the lessons from CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting? And why was it so effective and powerful in helping you kind of overcome all of this kind of stuff?
CrossFit helped me realize it's not about how you look. When you focus on how you look, you become very self-centered. The objective of your reality is to look good, but that's not real internal confidence and healthy esteem, right? When as a man, we're connected into our guts, right? Our true source of power, and we're connected into our bodies. We automatically feel a lot more confident because we're willing to express ourselves. And so when I was doing CrossFit, it helped me realize it's not about how you look. The byproducts of focusing on how you feel, right? How you're performing, how functional you are as a human, that'll translate to doing, if you did that consistently for a couple of weeks, the translation is you look yourself in the mirror and you're gonna like what you see. You're gonna look good naked.
So it's a lot deeper. It's not just skin deep. It's not superficial. It's about who you are, your substance. I think that's super powerful. And I've also actually taken part in CrossFit. And for me, one of the elements I'd add as well is just the effect of community. How important community is in terms of kind of building together, having people you can rely on, support, and there's also accountability across the different people involved who have a shared goal. Like that kind of stuff is super powerful. And communities, whether it's getting fit, whether it's physical health, but also mental health, or also professional, so like working together with other coaches, I think the community aspect is something super powerful. And you'll also be excited to hear about Penside's community, which is growing massively. And so yeah, if you're listening, you can find yourself in a community just like that. Super powerful and super helpful. Yeah. Anything else to add, Anthony?
Yeah, I just love what you said about the community aspect, because you are a byproduct of your environment, both physical and interpersonal. So when I was doing CrossFit, being surrounded by other athletes who also had the same desire to perform well and lift heavy weight, but do it in a safe way, and we were competing together, going around, like that really helped me stay focused and inspired. And the same is true nowadays being in business. Like you have a standard, and say you're making like 60 grand a month or 100K per month, but then you meet someone who's making $1 million a month, and you can see the way they think, and it keeps you from just staying stagnant, if that makes sense, as well as it also allows you to not feel crazy when you're going through the emotional ups and downs that come with being a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'll hear it over and over again, but you are the average of the 5 people who you spend most time around, right? So that's essentially the important part about community. But yeah, I interjected and we went back a little bit. I'd love you to carry on. You were talking about the kind of seeing courses that were being sold online, the promises of passive income and millions and all that kind of stuff. What happened at that stage?
Yeah, so I went to work on building an online course, which took about 6 months, but 3 months in, I decided I'm going to burn the boats, and I'm going to tell the person I was dating, May 2017 is going to be the month that we move in together. So buy your plane ticket. I'm going to buy mine as well. Boats are burnt. Now it's time to figure this thing out. What's interesting though, is 3 months later, when I had launched the course, it flopped, completely flopped. So 6 months, like recording content and developing the resources and the Kajabi portal and the email automation and a little bit of ad spend. It was a big project, but when it flopped, I wasn't as disappointed as I was scared, because it was now December of 2016, and I made this girl buy a plane ticket for May 2017, and I also bought one myself. So the story I told myself was, if I tell her what's going on, she's going to think I'm like some pathological liar. She's not going to trust me. Our relationship's going to fall apart. And I really not only wanted to bring us together so that we can ultimately build a life together, but I also really wanted to make an online business work, because working with clients one-on-one, although you can be paid really well for that, it isn't scalable after a certain degree. So being really scared, I decided to do the next one best thing. I bought an app for $60 so that I can spy on what other people are saying in their ads in relation to this course, which was about building self-confidence. But funny enough, I started seeing these ads from these 2 guys, Chris and Taylor, from a company called Traffic and Funnels, about getting more clients using a webinar funnel. And so I'm reading through their copy, and the guy that helped me build my funnel, I asked him, his name's Kevin. I'm like, dude, Chris and Taylor, what are your thoughts about the work they do with clients? He said, it's truly transformational. I was like, awesome. Do you think I should get on a call and talk to them? And he said, yeah, for sure. They might close you though, if it's what you need, but just be open to it. I look at my bank account and I have like close to $7,000 left. And then that's it. In terms of coaching at the time, I had maybe like 3K per month in clients because I was spending so much time working on the course. Anyways, I get on the call. He invites me into the program. I talk to this guy, Mike, and where my headspace was at was if I can just make $8,000 per month, my life will absolutely change. So I asked him before I give him the first deposit of $2,000 for the program. I said, are you sure that you can help me get to at least $8,000 per month? And he laughed about it and he said, dude, $8,000 per month is nothing. Just wait. So I get in, leap of faith. 30 days later, I make 11.5 grand.
Wow.
And I'm like freaking out. The high performer in me is like, bro, what is wrong with you? You have such low standards. You should have set a bigger goal. Only $8,000 per month. And so with that also came the flip side, which was, is this going to last? Am I going to run out of leads? Is there going to be a shift in the market? And so now going back to that conversation of mentorship, I was able to bring this internal dialogue to the team and say, hey, this is what's coming up for me internally. What are your thoughts on this? And Taylor told me it's normal. It's to be expected. Let's attribute what worked and why. And if we repeat that again next month, you are guaranteed to see an increase in your income. And it didn't make sense for me, but I said, you know what? I don't know what I don't know, but I've taken your advice and it's helped me make great money. So let's do it again. End of the second month was 15.5 grand. Third month was a $22.2 thousand month. And then the fourth month was a $34.5 thousand month. And so if we look at that timeline in and of itself, like my reality didn't just like evolve, it warped very quickly. And so the middle of that month, I went to Florida. Me and the girl I was dating at the time moved in together. Of course, that was a real big transition for the both of us because we both had never lived on our own. So we knew we had a limited amount of time to figure out whether we wanted to get married or she was going to go back to her country and then she would come back. She, though, wanted to get married and I was on the same page. So we got married. I was going to sponsor her as we were now going through the immigration process. However, I now found out from the immigration that I couldn't sponsor her because I only had a limited window of time that I was starting to earn enough money to prove to the immigration that I can financially support her. So she had decided that she wanted to stay as well as not let her parents know about the entire situation. She didn't want to worry her family. And so now that put me in a place where I got to keep things afloat. It's time to hunker down and build this out. And of course, when you're an entrepreneur, that's not doing your inner work. You're not working on your shit, so to speak. All of my unprocessed wounds from childhood, the fear and scarcity, the fear of abandonment, with everything now being at an all-time high of stress, that all started to come out. And that created a lot of issues within our communication, within our marriage, within the household. We weren't getting outside help like counseling or therapy. I was dabbling into it and going to different men's retreats, but it was like a toe in the water and not a full immersion. And so we stood in that cycle for about 2 years. And over the course of those 2 years, I made a pivot in the business. I launched the new offer. And in the first month of launching that new offer, I did 60 grand. That was starting to grow. But a couple months later, I hit this point where I was like, I'm feeling as if my life is out of alignment. I hate what I'm doing. I don't like the way I'm working with clients, even though I had a team in place and things weren't bad. Looking back, it was nothing to do with the business. I just wasn't looking at myself in the mirror, not taking time off, feeling guilty if I just played guitar, did something, wasn't taking time to enjoy watching Netflix. We had our date nights every week, but my social life just wasn't there. I wasn't having any fun. And my spiritual side was also not connected. So things started feeling really pointless. And ultimately, I got on a call with Taylor Welch from Traffic and Funnels, who initially helped me like start all of this in the first place. And he asked me where my head was at. And I told him, I'm done with the business. I can't take it anymore. So I want to come close for you. I figured if I go do sales for him, it's a program that I understand real well and understand the market. I've had experience now working with, at the time, north of 300 personal clients, helping them build multi-six-figure businesses, coaches, consultants, agency owners. And so I made a transition to start working with them so that I could also now create some space so my now wife and I can work on our patterns. And 3 months in, Taylor asked me to relocate from Florida to Nashville, Tennessee, which made sense in a lot of ways. Like, we now had a son and there was more family friends for us out there. We didn't have a real tight social circle where we were living in Florida. I also had a lot of personal friends, and I thought quality of life would just be much healthier for everyone. So we moved here. I'm now working from the office, which was awesome because the camaraderie, the culture, I've now built a close friendship with Taylor and other people from the team. And about a year into it, we decided to move out of the apartment that we were in. We got a house. I rose to the ranks of being one of the top performing senior advisors, which is another fancy word for closer on the team. Generated like over $3 million just in the first year collected on the phone. And then the second year did another 3 million collected over the phone and totaled 486 high ticket client enrollments, as well as a little bit over 2,200 sales meetings, like those 45 minutes, 60-minute sales meetings. And so that was quite an experience.
My question here would be kind of going to the very beginning when you were starting out. You already clearly had some talent or flair for sales. So I'm curious, what were your insights that you first recommended to the teacher of yours? So it was originally your teacher, and then you became the student became the master, so to speak. What were your insights then that you shared? And I remember you mentioned that teacher then grew to 10,000 in sales or so. And then what were the insights that you learned later on down the line at Traffic and Funnels, where you're selling $3 million worth of products and offerings per year?
It's a good question. For her, going back to my teacher at the time, she was relying on word of mouth and referrals to get clients. And don't get me wrong, every business should have a referral system. But a referral system is not a predictable or controllable way for you to generate clients. You'll never know when your next client's going to come in. And that's not healthy for a business owner. So my advice to her was to get into a place online, like a Facebook group, where her ideal client would hang out. You can go to free groups, connect with others, give advice genuinely, not just, outright pitch an offer. It'll get you booted from the group, but genuinely add value, communicate with people, get into the comments, help people out. It's going to be an organic process where people start liking your stuff and they go to your profile. And if you got some content there and you're showing personality and you're sharing social proof and you're also making offers, you're giving resources, somewhere along the way, there's going to be an interaction between you and people in private. And that's definitely one way that works exceptionally well. It's the first way I grew to 30 grand per month. But for her, the second piece of advice that I gave is don't just think about free groups. This is a real ninja strategy actually for anyone that's going to be listening who works with clients. Think about the apps or courses that are lower ticket, your ideal clients purchase. So for her at the time, it was like she's working with women to connect more within their feminine so they can show up better in their relationships and have more intimacy. And these were people who were buying this relationship course. So you got to think about this. Like, you have another company that is running ads to get people to buy this course. And if she buys it to get into the course and she starts adding value, connecting with people who are proven to be customers in comparison to a free group, it'll be higher and best use of her time. And that is also something you can do, other things that you can use to grow your sales and actually remove a lot of this off your plate, which is some of the things I teach my clients in private. But for her, what ultimately happened was she purchased the course, gets into the group, starts responding to comments and adds value. And people reached out to her. Hey, thank you for the advice that you gave me. That was really helpful. And I love your content. So I showed her how to lead the conversation in Messenger so she could turn it into a conversation over the phone, because conversions happen in conversation. She sold a couple of clients and generated 10K within 2 weeks, which was awesome.
Oh, so yeah, so to play that back to you, a super important insight is not only thinking about, yes, this is the group of people I want to target, these are my target audience, but also those who are willing to pay is a step up, and essentially somebody else, whoever's selling the course, is doing you the pre-qualification that these people have such a burning need, such a desire, that they're actually willing to pay for at least a course, and then sharing your insights with them, showing that you have authority, showing that you're willing to share content, and providing golden nuggets will then lead to potentially inbound, even where you can then convert that warm conversation where they're already grateful to you into a phone call where it becomes much easier to close. And Pensight, again, is an awesome tool that you can use to convert those people, have those calls, and then sell your higher ticket offering. So super interesting insight. That was back originally. And then moving to your crazy $3 million stats. How about that?
Is your question, what are some insights that I learned while working at Traffic and Funnels?
Exactly. Yeah, the 2,200 calls you did and all of the sales you closed, what were kind of the patterns that you saw repeating that you think other people could also benefit from?
Here's where I'll start. Because most people think about sales and immediately they're thinking about sales tactics and objection handling strategies. And we could talk about all of that because they do help. However, the most important thing to start talking about for anyone who is either currently doing sales within their own business or if they have a sales team is mental models. And I want to unpack this because who you're showing up as on the call has a much larger effect than what you're saying. You ever hear the word like, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it?
Mm-hmm.
So first, let's talk about extreme ownership. You can't challenge a prospect from a true place of love and care to be congruent with their vision when you are not proud of the person that you are being in private. Real power is going to come from honesty. So that means really taking ownership of your life. When you've made a mistake, own that you've made the mistake, regardless of how small or how big it is. I would see people on the team, and these were who I would call immature players. They had skill set, but their emotional EQ wasn't there. They would justify a lot of bad behavior, justify a lot of bad communication. And all that did, being a salesperson who makes money by closing sales, is it hurt their income. Whereas I looked at the game of sales being like an athlete. Athletes are meticulous about making sure they are healthy, they are having fun, not just in the game, but in their personal life. If they drop the ball, they're going to admit it. They're reviewing their sales calls. They're getting mentorship from people who are smarter than them. They're willing to admit there are people who are smarter than them. They don't think they know it all. They're willing, if they're very skilled, assuming they have a lot of pride, most people do who know they're good at what they do. When they're in the eyes of someone who is more wise than them, they're willing to adjust their ego from a level 10 to a 4 to be a good student. And so as I was doing this, I went layers and layers deep, like making sure I'm regulating my vision and drive. If I'm starting to produce less than what I was doing previously and I feel burnt out, right? Let's not assume that I am ready to even take time off. Most people think they're needing some time off because they're burnt out, but really they haven't been working so hard. Why they feel burnt out is because they have achieved goals they've already set for themselves. And now they're 2 months later still celebrating the goals that they've previously achieved. Or their goals are so ahead of them that they don't know how to confidently hit them. And as a byproduct, they feel really disappointed. Things start feeling pointless. They lose the excitement and the drive. And so auditing that, making sure I'm being regulated and taking care of my biology, working out consistently and eating good quality foods and getting at least like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm reviewing my sales calls. I'm constantly learning new things. Those are the most important, like foundational essentials that if you just get those things right, you can be horrible at sales, but you are going to feel relentless. You're going to want to reach out to a lot of people and talk with them and help them out. And that's the next mental model I want to transition and talk about here, which is prioritizing true relationship over closed sales, right? Prioritizing true relationship over closed sales. Yes, the purpose of sales, vehicle you use to make money for the business. But when you're selling, your number one rule is to show up and help your prospects make the best decision for them. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's about the kind of win-win approach, finding something that's mutually beneficial and being aware that if somebody is losing either the other person or you, then that relationship is actually one that's not beneficial and one that you should not be forcing unnaturally.
Absolutely. Right. So the relationship means I'm on a call with you with an agenda. At the beginning of a call, I don't know what you need. I don't even know if I can help you. I can only take in clients that I can genuinely help. But I also need to make sure that making the decision on this call is the best thing for you. Because if it's not, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to get you connected with someone else in the industry I know. And I'll still make sure you get what you need. But the reason why it's so important to see sales as this way is because the first thing that's going to happen when you truly are showing up and doing what's best for the prospects, there's no more room for you to even think about the sale. So the way you come across on your calls, the way you sound, your tonality, your energy, your presence, your empathy skills are going to raise as a byproduct. And where most people go wrong is they want to learn these tactics of how do I say this in the best way? And those things are important when you are at a place emotionally where you're prioritizing the relationship over to close sale, right? Here's a hypothetical. You get on a call with someone who's reputable. They're asking you questions to learn about your business, but you know personally, your cash on hand, your access to credit is no more than $1,000. But the person you're on a call with starts asking you all these questions and ultimately makes you an offer to work with them. But you really only have $1,000. Was that the best way the person you were talking to can help you during that call?
What's the answer?
No. You have $1,000 left to your name. Let's say you have a family. Like, you need your $1,000 to put food on the table. So what would be best for the person? Maybe to advise them to get a book, advise them to get a job, maybe see if they can become resourceful, put themselves in a better situation. If you sell courses, gift them a course, give them something that they can use to be in a better position. How about this one? You're the closer. You're on a call with a prospect who somewhere in the call says that I can't make the decision on this call because I've invested other things in other businesses and they didn't work. And so my wife doesn't trust me in making decisions like this on my own anymore. And if I did, she would literally divorce me. But rather than meeting them where they are, you tried to force them into a position in the call to make a decision to invest. Did you do what was best for the person? No. But what if, though, you, rather than put them in a place where they feel forced to make a decision, you uncovered more context as to why does your wife not trust you? Like, what did you do? Let me see if there's a way that I can help coach you through getting your partner's buy-in into this, getting your partner's support into this. Wouldn't that be more helpful?
Yeah, I think this Socratic method, the consultative kind of question-based approach, is super, super powerful and can also just leads to much better understanding. And I think this kind of reframing of, instead of thinking about it as sales, but as a way to help the other person, and so that requires a full understanding of their context, can lead to much better results. Absolutely.
The last thing I'll add on this that I've learned is to be meticulous about tracking your numbers. Emotions are fickle. You can feel depressed for no other reason than yesterday you got 3 hours of sleep. And because you feel depressed, you start to feel anxious. You have 4 calls scheduled on your calendar for the day and 2 of them no-showed. And you think now, because you haven't enrolled anyone, your finances are going to go bankrupt. And now as a business owner, it causes most people to start making a bunch of changes. They change their messaging, change their offer, to change their scripts, everything. As opposed to look at the numbers and let your numbers determine what's working and why and what's not working, so that you can therefore be accurate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
were very meticulous. Go ahead.
Yeah, this attribution element is something you mentioned before as well. So by attribution, measuring numbers, you mean not only kind of where business-wise, what your, where your clients are coming from, where the leads are coming from, how many you're converting and all that kind of stuff, but also things related to your life as well.
Totally. Like we would do a lot of performance reviews daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And the reason why is the greatest closer in the world is still going to go through sales ruts. And as a business owner, you need to know the full attribution to what's working and why, so that in a sales rut, you can audit effectively and pay attention to, is this something that is in my control I'm dropping the ball on? Or is this genuinely something out of my control? Let's say we get to August and there's a bunch of no-shows. And the reason for that, even though like you've done everything well and you're showing up locked in, however, due to the nature of parents taking the last vacation with their kids before they go to school, or they're moving to get closer to a school, well, that's a blip. You've been showing up well. You don't need to change anything, but it's a blip. Most people, though, aren't able to see that, though, because they're relying too heavily on their emotions and therefore making reactive decisions in business versus looking at the numbers, auditing their performance as a human being and within the business as indicators. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a massive conversation in its own right, like talking about kind of indicators, leading and lagging indicators, also input and output metrics, and how you should think about them, what you should focus on. But I think that's for another time because it's such a massive topic in its own right. Moving forward again, we were at this kind of position where you're, of course, at an extreme high, again, $3 million a year, and then things change again. The story continues.
Yeah, there was a lot of transition, especially a year before I left. At the beginning of the year, I went through a divorce. And that was a life-changing moment for me because not only did I get divorced, but the way it unfolded led to my ex-wife leaving the country to go back to Norway and took our son with her. And so I'll spare the details, but I still had to show up to work and still help people make decisions that were best for them. And I don't think I would have been able to do that if I wasn't investing into the coaching I was prior. Knowing when you're playing the game to turn your heart off and turn your mind on and lean on instinctual skill and lean on your supportive environment. And so I made it through that. It was the hardest time of my entire life to go through. And ultimately, after the company started making some adjustments internally, leadership shifts, program shifts, commission structure shifts, I was now earning a lot less money, but working equally as hard. And when the gut feeling came up for me to leave, I knew that was a sign from God. My season was done. So I left, took some time off. And then when I was ready to start working with clients again, I took on my first client. At the time, he's a coach. Previously, he was doing between like 15, 20K per month, but his business couldn't scale, very overwhelmed. Now we just broke a $48,000 month this month, collected 47K. He's got all of his leads coming from organic.
Wow.
His coaching program, we increased price from 2,500 to 6K, built a back-end program for 12K. He helps bass music producers produce 2 to 3 professional tracks every month. Got 2 setters in place. And these are people who didn't even know anything about setter sales initially, but they're averaging upward of 2 closes per week each, which is awesome. And not only that, but the client that I was working with then and still working with now, amongst other clients, and it's a pattern for everyone. Their income's growing, their business is growing, they're making more money, they're helping more people, but they're also a lot more healthier. For this guy that I'm referring to, his personal joy is making music. And if we think about it from a larger perspective, like the business is nothing more than a financial vessel that, when built properly, supports you in living a life that you are fully in alignment with. However, most people put their business as the center of their life. And what that does is it removes our joy. So for him, it's more important to make music. He's playing his first show here in 2 weeks. He's very talented at making this kind of bass music, but that's his joy. And for others, there's people who've never had hobbies before who now have hobbies and they're making $20,000 to $30,000 per month, which is awesome to see.
Thank you for sharing all of this with us. I mean, your journey and transformations from all the travails and the hardships that you've been through. Thank you for being so honest and open. We're super excited to have you on Pensite as well. So you can catch Anthony at pensite.com/x/Anthony Aramini. And Anthony, where else can people find you?
Let's get connected to whoever is listening to this on Facebook. And if you let me know that we got connected through listening to this interview, then I'll send you a free training that's going to help you with preventing sales objections when you're on calls with your prospects. So just let me know, hey, we got connected, listen to the interview, and totally happy to share that. And we can get connected by going to facebook.com/Anthony, ARA, M as in Michael, I, N as in Nancy, I, 7. And
Awesome.
shoot me a message and I got your back.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you all for listening. Have a lovely day.
You too.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be releasing new ones every Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform to give other people the chance to discover us too.